With each passing day, the housing market crash becomes more and more obvious. Following a record-breaking 11-year rally that came to an end in the summer, the market is finally showing signs of complete collapse, but this data has not yet made it to the mainstream charts. Specifically, the commonly referenced Case Shiller index only shows a downfall of 2.7%, and most other outlets report prices remaining relatively stable. This is causing many to become rather blind to what is happening on the ground right now, ignoring strong evidence pointing to a serious downfall. A downfall that stems from the investment side of this market sector, with stats so bad many experts are predicting that this next crash will be worse than 2008. To understand this surprise real estate crash, which is catching everyone off guard, we first need to take a step back and understand some history that explains the underreported relationship between real estate investing and home prices. You see, in 2008, during the last major housing crash, the first people to feel the effects of the downturn were the residential investors. Normal, everyday people only felt the effects after investors were forced out. As home prices crashed 26% on a national level, most people accepted the cause or the root of the problem as subprime loans given away to people who couldn't afford them. AKA, poor people were given way too much money to buy houses they couldn't afford. And while that story was partially true, it's not what many experts believe to be the actual cause of the crash. In fact, according to various papers, including this one by the National Bureau of Economic Research, it was actually greedy investors who propped up the market in 2008, causing it to implode. The reason I bring this up is because if you understand this bit of history, you will see that it's repeating itself in a different way today. Just this morning, we got new numbers for the Case Shiller, which showed national home values down 2.4% from the peak in the summer. Now, while that may not sound like a lot, it's the second worst decline since World War II. This last update means that for 4 months in a row, values have declined throughout the US, and prior to these dips, the Case Shiller hadn't reported a month-over-month home value decline since early 2012. All this to say that nominal home price dips are extremely rare at the national level, and what is happening right now is indicative of a larger problem that will continue in 2023. Specifically, the problems right now are concentrated on the investment side, which doesn't get a lot of attention, and the same thing happened back in 2008. According to this investment-first theory, the argument is simple. In the Great Recession, it was not the poor masses that caused the crash, but rather it was wealthy or middle-class home flipping speculators who blew up the bubble to cataclysmic proportions and then wrecked local housing markets when they defaulted en masse. The evidence behind this can be found in the credit reports. Analyzing a huge data set of anonymous credit scores from Equifax, various economists found that the biggest growth of mortgage debt during the housing boom came from those with credit scores in the middle and top of the credit score distribution, and that these borrowers accounted for a disproportionate share of defaults. Essentially, this means that investors led the way in the last crash, and as you're about to see, the same thing is happening right now. According to a CNBC report, gross flipping profits are down 18.4% from the second quarter and down 11.4% year over year. It represents the smallest profit since the end of 2019 and the fastest quarterly drop since 2009. In fact, one can argue that the home flipping market is completely dead. One thing that differs from this crash and the 2008 one is the fact that we have a new kind of home flipper, iBuyers, massive prop-tech companies that engage in home flipping on a mass scale. The largest of these iBuyers, called Opendoor, is down 97% from its peak price back in February of 2021. In fact, many are now saying that Opendoor is on the brink of bankruptcy, and with more than 10,000 homes on its books, you have to wonder about the true state of this market given these downfalls. If this company, which has survived 8 years of business, is now under serious threat, think about all the others in the space as well. Most other iBuyers have shut down or suspended operations, with Zillow being the first, followed by Redfin. And while these publicly traded companies release information like this, there are plenty of other smaller and private operations that are likely experiencing the same issues and slowing down as well. Redfin does a very good job capturing this truth with its quarterly investment report. This past one, released in late November, proves that investors are bailing at record pace. The year-over-year change in the number of US homes bought by investors is approaching 2008 levels, and the reasons behind this at the root level are pretty simple to understand. Residential real estate flipping margins were wide in the lead up to this year. We had record high appreciation, extremely low interest rates, and a consumer that was willing to pay a heavy premium for homes that were move-in ready. And today we're seeing record low numbers that are competing with all-time lows. As long as this market psychology remains intact, consumers will begin to fuel a self-feeding loop. When you know something is going to get cheaper and cheaper month after month, it becomes beneficial to wait. And as more and more consumers realize this, price drops increase exponentially due to the deflationary loop. But regardless of these factors, at the root of all of this, we have the most important development leading to the demise of the market, and that is the increase in the risk-free rate. Now, that may sound a bit boring, but ultimately at the center of this issue, there is one simple problem that cannot be ignored. We know from real estate investors that a good return on a property is anywhere between 7 to 15%. And of course, there's a lot of variables that can influence this number that we aren't going to talk about in this video, including things like leverage returns and cash-on-cash returns. But ultimately, people make money in real estate by either buying fixer-uppers and reselling them for profits called flipping, or buying deals and renting them out long-term, profiting from appreciation and rental income. So what does all of this have to do with the risk-free rate and the worst housing crash since 2008? Well, it's a simple explanation really. Like I just stated, the flipping business has become extremely difficult to operate. Most flippers know that the way you make money is on the initial purchase. Finding good deals is the bread and butter, but with home sales and inventory tight, it's becoming increasingly hard to find these deals. And then on top of this, we have falling prices and higher rates, along with the change in consumer psychology. This is why mass flippers are failing, down 98% over the past year and a half. And while data on private flippers is hard to get, we can assume that they're experiencing some of the same problems these iBuyers are facing. So now that flipping is facing a crisis, there's really only one other major way to make money in residential real estate, and that is passive rental income. But that side is also in a lot of trouble. Rental demand is falling off a cliff, and real estate investing profits are getting competition from the risk-free rate. Right now, the 2-year treasury yield is 4.3%, which means that you can essentially park your money in a bank account and make pretty good profits without ever lifting a finger. Compare that to the 7 to 12% you will get from real estate investing, and you will see now we have a problem. We know that passive income from housing isn't without risk, and you're exposed to all kinds of problems, including bad tenants, damage, falling home prices, unfavorable landlord laws, and plenty of other things that we won't even mention. The higher the risk-free rate increases, the lower the amount of investments that will pour into the residential real estate space, because simply put, why go through the trouble of taking on significant risk and effort when you can get similar returns from guaranteed fixed income? For the past 15 years, Americans have enjoyed extremely low interest rates, which has led debt to become rewarded and saving punished. Since 2008, the 2-year yield has never risen above 4%, so there has been an entire decade where real estate returns have been very lucrative for investors who plowed borrowed money into real estate, buying up properties for little to no cost on the interest end. This is now changing for the first time in a long time, and it's going to have profound effects, acting as gravity on the entire sector, pushing down investment and prices. In 2023, we will likely continue to see the Case Shiller plummet as the housing crash ramps up and values normalize across the nation. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed the video, and let me know down below if you plan on buying an investment property this year.